Welcome to the Enterprise Excellence Podcast, where our purpose is to help create a better future. Learn from our world's experts how to improve your organisation sustainably. Learn how to achieve and sustain an excellence journey for yourself, others, and the planet.
And I'm your host, Brad Jevons, coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. We are proudly brought to you in association with SA Partners, a world-leading business transformation consultancy. SA Partners are a truly purposeful company focused on helping organisations achieve sustainable improvement for themselves, others, and the planet.
For the months of April and May, we are celebrating all things Agile. Over these couple of months, we're going to bring you some of the most impressive podcast guests on the topic of Agile. This is timely given our launch of the Enterprise Excellence Academy's ongoing series of Agile events focused on helping organisations deploy Agile to the whole enterprise in any industry and in any role. Brad is delivering at least one highly practical capability building event every quarter. Our first focus is on the Agile High Performance Teams course, which offers a combined Scrum Master Product Owner accreditation certified by Dr. Jeff Sutherland's company, the Agile Education Program. We are super excited to be able to offer our listeners a free place each and every April and May to join us, either in the event of your choice or to join our community for 1 year. We host the Enterprise Excellence Community, which connects you with global experts to help sustain your journey. We really want to help create a better future for all of you, for people, profit, and the planet. To register for either or both of these offers, go to our website www.enterpriseexcellenceacademy.com and click on the giveaway button in our header. You can read a little about our community and the training that we offer there. Enter quickly to ensure you're in the next draw, and we'll look forward to e-meeting you soon. Time flies, so I'll pop the link to enter into the notes below for ease, and we'll be drawing the winner at the end of May 2023. Without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Welcome to episode 133 of the Enterprise Excellence Podcast. It is a pleasure to have Dr. John Kotter on the show with us today. John needs little introduction. We have all gained so much from his work in change management, business agility, and leadership over his career. John is a Harvard School professor. He has written many best-selling books, such as Leading Change, A Sense of Urgency, and My Iceberg is Melting. Today, we will be honing in on his recent books, Accelerate, and most recently, Change. These two books are so relevant to what we are facing. They provide insights into developing business agility, change for the better, and making it stick. Let's get into the episode. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Brad.
I really appreciate it, John. John, what's your backstory and what sort of moments through your life led you down this path where, you know, we know what you've done and what you continue to do?
Well, I started off in a different direction. Basically, the Russians put up Sputnik. The U.S. Congress freaked out and allocated all kinds of money to science training at a time when I was going into high school. So the only thing in my high school that had any money and had any interest was science. So I ended up at MIT with a science education, but it didn't take me very long at MIT to decide that probably pure science was not going to be the passion of my life. The probability of being a minor league Einstein was zero. But I went on to a graduate degree at MIT at the Sloan School, and then on to Harvard Business School, and then on to the faculty. And I've always had, and for reasons, Brad, I'm not entirely sure, a deep interest in organizations and individuals who perform at a really high level, and not just for a short period of time, but sustaining it over a longer period of time. Not sure why. Believe it or not, my undergraduate fraternity was my first real, even though I was president of my high school class, college class, the real job that showed me something about organizations was running the fraternity. So I was responsible as president for 70 souls and their kind of individual development, their social life, feeding them, housing them, etc. And I suspect that there was a wide gap in how well the fraternities at MIT performed, and even within our own fraternity, within nationally. And anyway, so the first real study was my doctoral thesis. And that kind of alerted, and that's been followed by something like 14 multi-year studies.
Wow.
That in combination, I've been told, is the largest research project in the world, program rather, in the world. And it's been a blast.
Yeah.
And it took me from trying to understand performance to getting more and more interested in what leadership meant, and that leadership wasn't management, which was mostly what was being taught at business schools. And that leadership was somehow important because it could mobilize people to overcome barriers and create useful change that would take advantage of opportunities out there, which led then to noticing that there were more opportunities, actually, if you look, because the world was changing faster and more volatilely and with more uncertainty. And so we kind of put it all together, and have been studying in more and more depth, and I'm very, very interested still today in understanding more about how individuals and institutions can adapt faster, smarter, better to a rapidly changing, volatile world in order to not just survive, but to truly thrive, to truly prosper in a sustainable way over time. And when you've had a chance to see an institution or an organization or a small business or a nonprofit do this, kind of get into the right rhythm, learn what I called in the newest book, the science of the emerging science of change. There's a lot to be learned yet. It's just thrilling. It's breathtaking. What people surprise themselves. They can't believe they just produced this, innovative product or service, or that they've made so much money, or they've created a workplace that people just love so much. That's thrilling. In this COVID world, we need a whole lot more of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And John, in the book Accelerate and then in Change, you mentioned this dual operating system, where you've got the stable day-to-day business, running the business and keeping the organization going. And then you have this more of a matrix style opt-in, you mentioned in some cases, where you form small teams that can draw out of the business. And those teams are focused on leading change and leading these projects through in a way. Do you mind explaining that in your words, John, that dual operating system?
Sure. I can still remember the first time that I actually used those words and drew a diagram. It was at a meeting at it wasn't the Harvard Club, maybe it was the Yale Club in Manhattan, with a bunch of New York-based executives and one of our clients. And he and I were trying to explain what he had done over the last 3 years, in which he had developed, executed well, a totally new strategy. And the results, the stock price, had gone from 25 to 59, and Everybody was happy. And we had whiteboards. And at one point I said, he's talking. And I said, let me try to draw what he's describing to you. And I drew a typical organizational structure, a hierarchy, boxes, and lines down. And I said, this is a dual system. This is half of it. This is what you kind of know and work through most of the time. And then I drew kind of a circle with spokes going out and then spokes going out from the little circles. I said, this is a different kind of network where you can have, where the people who are in it self-select in from the hierarchy. So you're not having two staffs. That's not the point.
Yeah.
But you do have two different kinds of jobs, as you said, Brad. The first is making sure the system runs well, despite complexity, despite geographic dispersion, despite numbers, tens of thousands of people. And the point of the second system, that network of people that kind of come together around strategic initiatives, is to spot and drive change. And the two need to work together. That is to say, to communicate a lot so you don't get surprises. And ultimately, that is what I think all great profit-making and non-profit-making business and governments are doing today, that are doing really, really well. They often don't recognize it. Sometimes they talk in terms of the formal organization and an informal organization. But it helps to be more precise than that, to say, no, this is what you're doing. This is why this is what one half is doing. This is what the other half is doing. And this is why you're performing so well. And that is becoming, in my judgment, as the world moves faster and faster, even more important, that you explicitly understand that there is this dual way of operating and you run it accordingly.
John, one question I've got on this, and I've read it in your book too, so for listeners, you can read it through the book as well, is, John, explaining the bit where you set up that dual operating system and you've got this autonomous matrix style, autonomous structure where people are opting into it and you're setting up these really leading change, strategic focused teams. And then you've got the existing business, which is running the day-to-day and looking at efficiencies and improving in its own way. And the secret for the existing business not destroying the other side of the dual operating system, the existing business not going, oh, we're too busy, I can't release you today, you can't go over to that team and work on that today, come back here, or the threat response coming to the existing business where I don't want that. I guess it's I think it's like the Kodak example you hear of, where they supposedly, I don't know, created the digital camera first, but the existing business just destroyed it.
Right. No, this happens all the time. Less so in dramatic ways than I think 20 years ago, because we've learned something and we are applying it. An even bigger one, Kodak was based in Rochester, New York. Also in Rochester was Xerox. The people who ran Xerox actually figured out that the main business would never innovate beyond the Xerox machines. They just make better and better Xerox machines. And so they needed a second system, and they created it on the other side of the country, hired a totally different kind of workforce. It was called the Palo Alto Research Center. And the Palo Alto Research Center innovated like mad. But you had these two organizations that were staffed by different people who had different missions, who didn't understand each other. So the people in Rochester kept thinking these weird guys out in Palo Alto understand nothing about business. They're just technologists. Meanwhile, a young kid by the name of Steve Jobs wanders through the Palo Alto Research Center, says, whoa, these guys are onto something, and forms Apple, and history goes from there. They didn't kill it, but for all practical purposes, they killed all the commercial possibilities because of the way they handled it. No, it works well when, number one, the organization has a sense of urgency that no matter how well we're performing, the world is changing. And we've got to be on our toes. We've got to be constantly looking for innovation or opportunities and innovate to take advantage of those opportunities. And the structure that runs the current business is just isn't good at that. It's not a matter of they're bad people. No, they're marvelous people who do something very, very well. But we need another system that handles the opportunity spotting, the innovation, and we've got to make it happen. This is a sense of urgency. It is important. And when you get that, people start to step forward, not everybody, but a few, saying, this makes total sense. I'm in. What can I do to help? And you start the cycle of they do some things in a new way, in a new networked way. It produces a better result. It's more innovative. That attracts attention because top management is smart enough to put a spotlight on it and, pat the guys on the back and say, well done. So more people become involved. You get more activity, more successes, and you get this kind of virtuous cycle going. And after a while, you build yourself a new system, a dual system, where people don't shoot at each other and try to kill each other off, where it works well together, because you basically change the culture of how people think about running the business.
Yeah. It's where it's so amazing, John, that you've done the research you've done. A global expert in change and making transformation stick has now looked heavily at how do you create agility and change through the way you structure your company. It's a perfect marriage. So thank you for what you've done, mate. John, do you mind just explaining the piece of sense of, like, it connects a lot back to leadership, doesn't it? You're mentioning a lot of leadership elements, a sense of urgency, leadership, short-term wins, recognizing short-term wins. John, do you mind mentioning the reason why and how to create a sense of urgency? I've heard you talk on this a few times, and I think it would be great for the listeners to know, because it seems a key point of getting change, this piece you talk about with threat and opportunity.
Yeah. I think the single most important thing that you need to do to create enough of a sense of urgency is to correctly know what your current state is. The number of times I've sat in my living room, not where I'm living right now, but when I lived in Harvard Square, where I'd have executive groups in, and I'd say, how much are your people, and how many of your people really see that the world is changing, there are great opportunities, and feel like every day they get up, they want to do something to operate it in a new and better way. And I'd get, many people. And I say, how do you know that? And they say, are you kidding? People are working long hours. They just meeting. The energy is incredible. So I make a couple of phone calls after these guys leave. And what I find is there's a lot of energy, but it's anxiety driven. It's not excitement, passion driven, and it's burning people out. It's not sustainable. So the situations where I've seen people develop a real sense of urgency, they start off with an honest assessment of where they're at, where they almost always find they're not near where they need to be. And then it's a matter of role modeling. You as an executive or a middle manager, just show people what a sense of urgency looks like. You know, when people start talking about opportunities, don't ignore them, especially if they're interested. You know, show your own passion, your own energy. Pat people on the back when they do achieve something that's new in a new way. Talk about speed and time, and the idea is not to run ourselves into the ground. Nobody wins that way. We win because we spot great opportunities and we create this kind of positive energy that is sustainable to attack them. And work is more fun that way. And you can role model all of that. People will catch on and it all goes up.
John, it sounds like I've heard this term leadership shadow before, where, you know, people talk of the shadow, what the role model, seeing what the leader does, how the leader talks, what the leadership do. Is that part of what you're talking about there, John, that senior leaders, you know, can actually, through their behavior and what they exude, start to shift culture or not?
Sure. One essential piece to cultural change is role modeling from the top and being very sensitive to, you know, a lot of people, a lot of very talented, very well-educated people are not particularly sensitive to their own actions and the impact of their actions. I can still remember a meeting from last year where a guy who I thought was terrific is running. He's running a big organization. It's not U.S. And he's got his executive committee together, and he does a great job of taking some coaching, and he's driving this conversation naturally around the very real opportunities that his business has out there that they're not acting fast enough to capitalize on. But he's not beating anybody up. It's what would happen. Think about for a second if we could exploit this, capitalize on this, what it would do for our employees, our customers, our investors. It was a wonderful meeting. Then in the last 10 minutes, okay, somebody in his direct reports brought up a problem that had come up from a customer, and it set him off. He was just so mad that his business, his people handled this customer, that he went out on kind of a tirade and beat up everybody in the room. And that's how the meeting ended. Yeah. So you can imagine, memory being what it is, the first 50 minutes kind of evaporate. The last 10 minutes stay in place. And when I pointed that out to him, of course, he's devastated. He didn't mean to do that. But I have found that people can become more self-reflective and more self-aware if they get it clear what it is they need to be doing. And sometimes it's also helpful to have a colleague or a friend you ask them, watch me. I'm trying to achieve X and Y. And if I behave in a way that doesn't demonstrate that, tell me. Just one little tactic.
Yeah, it's like a role confirmation. Observe my role as the leader of this meeting and give me feedback.
Yep.
That is awesome. John, with earlier in the episode, you mentioned around, I know you in Kotter International, you've got millions leading, billions benefiting as your vision. And here to that, that's a motivational vision and I can see it, I can see improved leadership, and it's going to have a flow-on effect to billions of people and things in the world. What is the power of a good vision for a leader, for a senior leader and their team and leaders below them connecting to that? What power does having a really compelling vision? And I guess you mentioned earlier too, constantly talking about it, constantly storytelling about it. What's the importance of that?
Because the problem with so many business missions and strategies is that they're antiseptic. We are very emotional creatures. Our nervous systems are very much connected to our hearts as well as our heads, if you will. And what a good vision can do is not only rationally help you to understand that we want to go this direction, not this direction, but it can engage you at a deeper level and make that trip feel more exciting, more meaningful, which can make all the difference in the world in getting a group of people to take on challenges, to take on barriers, to deal with the ambiguity and the volatility that is very real today around us all. So it's very important because it can not only direct, it can engage emotionally and produce sustainable energy and that you need to make important things happen.
Yeah, nice. It's such a, I guess you're mentioning there a bit about the emotion driver. John, what's your thoughts nowadays about the threat response of, say, I guess a crisis vision of we've got to survive and boom, 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 rattle the drums, we've got to go, versus that positive emotion vision and driver? What's your thoughts on that nowadays?
One of the things that the studies we did for the latest book that came out just last year was looking over the research that's been done on the last 2 decades on what loosely is called brain science. And it's very clear to me that we all have in our hardware, if you will, a system that was first developed at least 100,000 years ago, maybe much further back than that, that has one basic function, and it's survival. And it's an incredibly powerful system. It's like our eyes and our ears and our smell is constantly doing this radar check around us, looking for threats. And when it perceives a threat, it can send us into action just like that, just this energy burst. So way back when, it was walking through the savannah or jungle, see saber-toothed tiger out of the corner of your eye, and you're up at the top of a tree in like 4 seconds. You win an Olympic medal. That system is still very much into all of us, and it's very powerful. And it's needed. If you step off a curb and don't notice out of the corner of your eye that there's a bus coming, that system will save your life. But that system gets applied these days to a lot more than the physical challenges that it was designed for. It gets applied to ego challenges, career challenges, organizational challenges, interpersonal challenges, and it can overheat. And when it overheats, it shuts down a second system that is much newer in evolutionary terms, which is similar in many ways, but looks for opportunities. And when it sees an opportunity, instead of getting anxious and feeling, the fight or flight syndrome, which is very much associated with survive, this thrive system exudes chemicals that we feel as excitement, as curiosity, as passion. And we want to take action, not at the same 200 miles an hour for a short period of time. And as long as we can see evidence that we're making some progress at exploiting that opportunity, that energy level can stay up for a significant period of time. The problem that we face so often today is leaders, in their own anxiety over some problem, play to the survive side, but their people are already overloaded on the survive side, and there is no way that they can take action and solve the problem in a day or two or a week. It's something that's going to take a year or 2 years. And so they just run around in circles, burn out, get frustrated, get mad. And COVID has not made that easier. And I talk that, and very often people will say, no, that's how you create the sense of urgency. No, if the problem cannot be solved in a short period of time, putting people into a fight, flight, survive state does not solve your problem. It just burns them out, and it creates a low-performing organization. And it's amazing how often I occasionally bump into people in major leadership positions who don't get this point
yet. Yeah. It's a challenge, and especially with the amount of anxiety people are feeling in the world right now. It's like everyone's on the edge of that fight or flight naturally.
Correct.
Crazy. Yeah. John, with I heard a talk that you did with Google once, which was a great talk on you, and it was right when your new book Change was coming out. And you mentioned in that the need for celebrating short-term wins with this positive vision, this positive thrive vision. And you made a statement which was like, I really see celebrating the short-term wins is critical. And I wanted to ask you this question for two things, because I see in Australia in particular, I see a lot of leaders, they don't want to talk about their vision all the time. They don't want to share stories. They don't necessarily celebrate the short-term wins. I think part of it can be because it's seen as soft or mushy, and it's like, I'm a tough Aussie bloke or something. I don't know properly. And I'd probably need to look into my soul and explore too, because I'd probably figure it out. But do you mind explaining why it's so important to constantly share stories about the vision and also celebrate short-term wins?
Again, the way that you get large numbers of people into the game of helping you find the opportunities, exploit the opportunities, move faster, and perform at high levels is you get this virtuous cycle going. And a key part of that cycle is more and more of these short-term wins, which are made visible and are celebrated. And you're right. I think there are some people who had often, not always, more technical educations like I had, who think this stuff sounds so soft that they're suspicious about it. I think there are some people that just haven't seen somebody do this well, so they haven't kind of learned it yet in their career. And there are others who are afraid that if you celebrate one person's success, you're somehow making other people jealous. But all of those are issues that you can deal with. The reality is, I talk about it in the newest book, the Change book. We do have an emerging science, underlying the word science of change. This isn't all soft stuff. There's been enough research done that we could say things with great confidence. One, and if you look at great leaders throughout history, their willingness and capacity to deal with these kinds of issues, including being very sensitive to spotting, celebrating, patting people on the back, not necessarily throwing money at them. That's a more recent modern phenomenon. And there's no evidence that that's the best way. You run out of money at a certain point, you know. People need psychic income, which is different than paper income. And they love it when they can do something that they know is useful and meaningful and be recognized for it. And their energy level will just go up another notch and stay up, which is what you need these days to deal with this volatile, ambiguous, challenging world.
Yeah. We all typically want to serve something and someone, don't we? Like we love to serve and be recognized for that serving.
Yep.
John, with the final question I've got, mate, on the topic of change is the importance of senior leadership and executive. We've spoken a bit in the show about their shadow and about the piece of vision and motivating, but how important or not is it that a senior leadership team really owns the transformation and they own that project and the longer term journey and actually continue the energy on it? What's your thoughts versus it can be handled by another team somewhere else in the organization?
I have yet to see one of the most common problems we first identified when we were studying transformation. And I wrote an article that was called something like Why Transformations Fail, is because executive teams delegated responsibility totally to some more junior team that didn't have the strength, the leadership capability, the authority, the information needed to do that job. And it never works. But that doesn't mean that a executive team should own it in the sense of only they are responsible. They want to get more and more people into the game, more and more people helping them with the leadership chore. And those are the cases where you see things produce sometimes just hard to believe results.
It sounds to me, John, like you're describing a mindset, because is your mindset, I've got this lean team, this agile team, this new strategy improvement team, and it's their job to make it successful. So they need to go do it. And I'm going to probably blame them or beat them up if they don't achieve it or not. And then there's a flip side mentality that we own and want to achieve this and we're going to lead it and see it through like crazy. And I've got these people who are working with us and we're partnering with them to achieve the journey. But we are that real sponsors and even, I guess, some involvement piece, that mindset. Is that, what would you describe, John? Am I on the right track with what you're talking about there?
Absolutely. But I'd say there are three. It's their job, it's 100% our job, and the third, which is it's all of our jobs.
Yeah, nice.
And we play different roles. We sponsor, when they run into barriers that they can't eliminate, we help out. They keep us informed, we guide them. They provide more and more ideas and innovation and energy. And it's that, so it's 1 + 1 = 3, you know.
Nice. John, thank you so much. John, in your area of expertise and all you've done, what would be a rapid, small 2-minute tip that you'd give to leaders to say, look, start here, consider this, with trying to really build more agility and start to actually make a transformation stick in that space?
Well, I think we've hit the point now. This is going to sound outrageously self-serving. So I'm just going to warn you in advance. We've got to the point now where we have studied this enough that we can say things with some real confidence. And if you're serious about wanting to improve your capacity to lead, improve your capacity to produce not just good, but outstanding organizations, go out and look at the latest applied research. Read some of this stuff and try it. Don't just read it, try it. Use common sense. And I have found in our consulting that we give out books, we give out articles, and if they're given with the right tone, you know, you have to trust me on this, my friend. You know, there's something in here you will find that will help you. It's amazing how people will find things, will try things that are new, and will get better results. Don't assume this is all a bunch of everybody's got a different opinion and they're all equally valid. Nope. Don't assume this is such soft stuff that you can't say anything with any confidence. No, we're understanding it better. You should understand it better, and you can really do something with it.
Yeah. John, thank you too for yourself and everyone around you, and that has helped do that research and bring that knowledge to light. Like you mentioned, you know, it's really shifted that new era of properly understanding leadership and starting to change, and it's been amazing. Yeah, John. Well, John, I really appreciate your knowledge and everything you've done and being part of our community today and helping share knowledge to that community. And thank you so much. John, I know everyone knows where they can get the books, you know, any bookstore. John, how can people reach out to Kotter International if they want to connect and get some further help?
Yeah, just put into your browser Kotter, Kotter. You'll get 10,000 things, but near the top will be something about the firm, Kotter International. And in that will be lots of information about practices and research and the like, and a way to contact me if you've got a question. And I actually do answer my email. Astonishing.
John, thank you so much, mate. It's been such an honor to be able to talk to you today, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Brad. Really, really.
Thanks so much for a great episode, Brad and Dr. Kotter. Wow, it was so holistic and covered so much of the critical elements to truly achieve change and agility. Thank you so much, Dr. Kotter, for your time and expert knowledge. And can I gently remind you to enter our giveaway that will be drawn at the end of May 2023 to join us in either our Enterprise Excellence community or in a training event of your choice. Register at our website www.enterpriseexcellenceacademy.com and click on the giveaway button in our header. You can click on the form there and enter either or both of those offerings. You can read a little about our community and the training that we offer there. Enter quickly to ensure that you're in the next draw, and we'll look forward to e-meeting you soon. The link to enter is in the notes below for your reference, and thanks for listening everyone and helping to create a better future. Bye for now.